All right, SuperCoaches, strap in. Welcome to the official AFL SuperCoach podcast, your in and out guide to the greatest game on this big blue marble we call the planet Earth. That's right, AFL SuperCoach. We've got round 14 in the bag, round 15 to preview. We're going to do so with some of the smartest brains on this planet when it comes to SuperCoach. And also me. That's right, I'm your host, Jaymz Clements. Joining me today, we have Al Paton, the guru. What's going on, Al?
I'm feeling really good, James. SuperCoach is going well. We just talked a little bit Dusty 300 before coming on here, so I'm a little bit emotional, but we'll push on.
We've also got Patch sitting over there with the long, luscious locks just flying about in the air. Love this.
G'day, how are ya?
Has there been calls for endorsements and things after last week's show?
No, well, I tried to get, Alex Pearce responded to me on Twitter, and I tried to then try and get his hair secrets, and he gave me the exact answer I gave everyone else. So, anyway,
Is the answer he washes in mountain streams? Like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is, right?
Well, no, my answer was like, what's your secret? And I said yes. And I then asked Alex Pearce and he said yes.
Excellent.
Which, fair play to the man.
Nice. Well, there you go. He's got some of the greatest hair on the planet and also one of the best SuperCoach teams. I don't. We'll get to that in a second. But
your hair's lovely. What are you talking about?
I'm the fun one. We'll bring on the Phantom to talk Bubble Boys as well. But we have one of the other fantastic SuperCoach content creators out there, the SCodfather, the coach of Abs Magic, ranked, what was it, 102?
I can't calm it down about this interview. He's so good.
It is a great chat. Stick around for that. And of course, this show is proudly brought to you by the SuperCoach Plus vibes on the SuperCoach website. Follow your live SuperCoach scores on game day. See all the break-evens, all your projected scores. Dominate your buys. We've only got one of those left. The buy planner. You can check out the show notes for a link to subscribe. Right. Let's get into it. Round 14, the rap. And heroes and villains. Can we start with you, Patch? Because I can't actually get myself to write down my final score. So how did you go?
So 2038 for me this week. Very happy with that. A few people bit further ahead, but I did still go up in ranks. So into the top 500 or back into the top 500 after falling last week. Good time.
Nice one. Heroes?
Dan Houston is an obvious standout after just tearing the Giants to shreds. He was about the only one that did. They was a bit of a dour match, but it was nice watching his score go up on the SuperCoach Live page, just number go Brewer. Very happy with that. And my villain, I collectively want to give it to Taggers for ruining my midfield. Just a bad time all round. I don't have Lachie Neale, so I avoided that bullet. But Zach Butters tagged out of the game. Tom Green got some heavy attention. Jack Steele, I think, got paid a visit from the Berry Man. There are other players that did bad this week, and I'm just trying to forget them. So they're half of the villains, and the other villain, Dane Zorko, I think, for being on,
112
at halftime and finishing on 141. Just incredible seagull energy. He just had the thirst for the ball that I haven't seen live in a long, long time on Friday night. And then second half, he just put his feet up. And honestly, Dane, what are you doing, mate? If you're going to, commit, just get your head in the game, buddy.
Well, that entire Lions team basically put the cue in the rack, I felt like, in the second half. They nearly got overrun. But either way, Al, score, ranking, hero, villain. What do we got?
This is good part. 2079 I finished on. So, like Patch and like a lot of people, I did have some sort of underperformers, especially in the midfield, but had some pretty good scores to make up for it. You didn't mention there was a ruckman in Adelaide who went pretty well again.
I do contractually need to say that Brodie Grundy played very well this weekend, and I love him. Illy Brodie, XOXO, speaking of good hair.
But my trade-in this week was Luke Davies-Uniacke, so I was pretty happy with that move. He was on 74 at halftime as North went bananas, and then obviously the game completely changed. He scored 0 points in the third quarter, but then 73 in the final term. He was absolutely unbelievable. Unfortunately, couldn't quite hold off the Magpie juggernaut, but I'm pretty happy with that trade-in. And I thought I'd give a special little shout-out to Marcus Bontempelli, who has reasserted himself. I know all year we've talked about, your Matt Rouse and your Zach Butters and Tom Greens, and he's just swatted them all away. He's back to the number one player in SuperCoach, number one scorer for the season so far, as he was last year. Massive 162 points after he was supposed to be under a cloud with illness or whatever he had, and he's now nearly 700k as well. So
the last time I had the flu, I couldn't move from my bed to the couch, and Bond comes out and has 30 touches and 15 contested possessions, and he's just fine. That's just superhuman.
Yeah. Superhuman, Superman. I did have somebody comparing him to the MJ flu game, and I'm like, let's not compare a round 14 AFL game in the middle of June to MJ in the 1998 finals, but still.
Look, if the Western Bulldogs against the Fremantle Dockers at Marvel Stadium in the middle of June isn't comparable to the NBA, what is, James? What is?
It's right there. I'll lead off NBA Australia with that next. It's gonna be awesome.
A quick villain, my other trade in this week, I was umming and ahhing whether to bring in a defensive primo, which I needed to do. I thought I could just hold off one more week because there's a few more options on the table this week that I quite like, but I thought that's silly to wait. I'll get in an extra number for the bye round, so I got Jordan Clark from the Dockers, 85 points. I mean, I think he was about the third or fourth highest scorer for Freo, so that's not atrocious, but certainly not what I thought I was paying for, so need a bit more out of him. Otherwise, there'd be nearly temptation to sideways him to a bunch of these other really good defenders that are now available this week or even potentially next week.
I'll pay that. Villains, everybody for me. 1632 is what I landed on. It was an absolute horror show. Why is that, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. Everybody stunk. The entire team.
What about Nick Vlosten?
Vlosten stepped up. He was almost my hero there for a second. He scored 160. It was fantastic. But my heroes were obviously like the likes of Zorko and Heaney, because without them I would have been even somehow worse. But mostly the villains, it's the likes of Hayden Young, who I brought in. You talked about the Freo sort of depressed scores. He and Sarong were both wildly underwhelming. Young had 83, Sarong with the 96. It was just brutal. On top of then, at the very end of the week, the second last game, I guess, you have Zach Fisher, 71. Thanks a lot, Zach.
If that last kick had gone through, that would have been worth about 30 points.
And then that combo of the final game of the round, Zach Butters with a 76, the Hornet, my POD, my one remaining POD, the 71, breaking my heart, and of course...
Turned into a POS.
Yeah.
Got him.
And then, of course, my beloved Tom Green, 80, as we've already hit on. So, yeah, villains, everybody. Right, SuperCoach news, injury suspensions. Al, Zach Butters, we got any problems?
Yeah, we might have. Yeah, not a heap around in terms of injury kind of stuff. We talked about the Bont. It came out after that Collingwood game too. Craig McRae said that Nick Dacos almost didn't play. Obviously had the shin issues, and then he was crook away from, sent home on Friday or Saturday. Wasn't sure if he was going to play. I think Ed Allen was there on standby on Sunday if Nick didn't come up, but fortunately he did, and was unbelievable, at least after his tagger got subbed out, which was an interesting move. But on the Collingwood front, they're not playing this week with the bye, but we have Jordan De Goey and Brodie Myercheck are due back after the bye, which could be interesting for some of those Collingwood cheapies that a few of us have. And the other one you mentioned there, Zach Butters, didn't really appreciate that tagging attention that he was getting from Toby Bedford, of all players, a little small forward for the Giants.
Disgust in your voice. Toby Bedford. How dare he?
And then he had a bit of a tangle with Tom Green off the ball, who was also having his own issues, as you said, but the vision is very fuzzy, but it does look like Zach copped, or Tom copped one around the chops from Zach there. So, yes, our man... Johnny Ralph, who's all over the MRO points and how that all works, says he could be in trouble, might miss a week, which would be just absolute magnificent timing in this last bye round, which is going to be another pretty tricky one.
Is Zach Butters a good bloke, though? Can he get off on a good bloke defence?
So
when they spin
who's a better bloke, though? Tom Green's a pretty good bloke.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how many wheels do they spin when they decide what his penalty is.
I think Zach Butters probably cops it because there's like a bit of a Ramsey Bolton kind of lookalike vibe there, and he might just not get good bloke points for looking like one of the worst characters of Game of Thrones. Just saying. Throwing that out there. Right, after round 14, though, the biggest talking points, Al, very easy. It's finally the last bye round. Yay, question mark. I love this idea because they're over after this. At the same time, round 15's buys are a doozy. We are missing the Western Bulldogs, Adelaide, Hawthorn, St Kilda and Richmond. What does that mean?
Bad.
Some big
names.
I
have no players. That's what it means.
77% of us own Nick Dacos. Marcus Bontempelli in 54% of teams. Jack Steele in 25%. Jordan Dawson in 17%. Tim English, good old Tinglish, 17%. Dylan Moore in 7% as well. The toughest one, I think, for everybody else, though, is the rookies. Like, it is sort of that underclass of, like, the bench cover, Lockie Sullivan, Darcy Wilson, Billy Dowling, Nathan Kruger, Hugo, the brothers Garcia, and even your beloved Kate McAuliffe.
And I think he scored 11 on the weekend. Oh, yeah, Frazier's
out as well. So it is a really, really, really rough week. How are you looking at this, Al?
Yeah, and it's just because it's the last bye round, I think we sort of have less wiggle room because I don't have too many players that I really want to get rid of at this stage. So, yeah, if you've been able to manage it to get 18 or 19 this week, I think we'd be doing well. I think I might have 19 at this stage, but that includes Zach Butters, so he could be on thin ice. Maybe use a trade or two to bring somebody in, but I don't want to be, the team's actually looking pretty good. I think one thing I try and do coming into, especially the last bye round, is shuffle your team around and make sure you check it before the round starts so you're not going in like this. But just put everybody where you want them after the buys and then see where the holes are so that the trades you might make this week are not going to muck things up and you end up with someone, Zach Fisher, stuck in your back line where you need him, you don't have enough forwards or something like that. So, yeah, that's one little piece of advice, but it's not that easy. But there are some good players coming off the round 14 bye that you could potentially bring in this week who would help the situation.
Good players and cheap players too, comparative to what you'd be expecting to pay. There are a few guys in that 500, 550K bracket that could really, go a long way. And there's a few guys even cheaper who, could make a bit of a splash as a F7, M9 kind of situation as well.
I'll pay that. So the top targets coming off that round 14 bye, which was obviously absolute carnage. Zach Merritt at 577. Not bad. Jordan
that's a
Ridley.
great price for him.
He's a good player.
Can play a bit. Might be right there in the Brownlow too, just saying. Jordan Ridley, 563K. I have questions, basically mostly around my not so beloved Nick Martin and how Ridley is just basically completely stealing all of his points. And I'm fascinated to see what happens with one more week. So this week coming up, just what happens. We might have to punt Nick Martin again. Could I trade a guy out twice in a year? We're about to find out. Jeremy McGovern as well, 555K coming off the Eagles by an interesting sort of point where he's been really good. The Eagles been handy. Can you trust it? Can you trust those the soft tissue injuries of a McGovern? I don't know. Outside of that, Matt Rowell, 541. Sam Walsh, 548. Charlie Curnow, 448. We'll talk about that again later. But I don't know. There's some pretty good names there, Al.
Yeah, and as Patch mentioned, a lot of those guys, last week we were talking about potentially getting a Luke Ryan who's 670K or something like that. So these prices are all pretty appealing. I think a lot of it is going to be team dependent. Do you need a midfielder? Do you need a forward? Do you need a defender? I think there are some good defenders on the menu potentially this week.
Should we go through line by line and just toss out a few names you're interested in?
Well, we'll start with the defence, and they are sort of the two that I put down that I thought are probably the standouts are Ridley and McGovern.
Yep.
Ridley is the number one averaging defender based on averages, but he has only played 3 games, so it's skewed a little bit. But do you think he can keep that kind of scoring up?
Yeah, I certainly, based on what we've seen, he can go 110 for the rest of the year. I don't think that's too much in question. The concern would be if he has to play key position. We saw that against Carlton where they lined him up on Curnow for a little while. That's not a role he tends to score very well in over long periods, and also not a role he tends to play as well as you'd like. So hopefully that doesn't happen long term, but I don't think, hopefully it doesn't. So yeah, he's certainly one I'd be looking very closely at. I think he's great.
Yeah, no, I've got McGovern, but Ridley's the one I thought I could have waited this week to get him, but I went early on Clark, and I do regret that now. Obviously, he missed the first 10 rounds with injury, so that's always a bit of a red flag, but as you said, McGovern has his own worries back there. Max Holmes is another one that you could throw in as a definite pod, but he's a little bit more expensive than those guys.
Yeah. Elliot Yeo's the one I'm really looking at out of the Eagles at 514K. That extra,
speaking of injury red flags.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the concern, and, you'd then want to cover, want some cover from a rookie or from someone else just because he will miss games on the run home, but his average is also, could average 115 on the run home based on what we saw earlier in the season. So you gotta weigh that up. Mason Redman also intrigues me. His score feels like it should be lower with Ridley in the team. It's been better. He's averaging 105 over his last 3, I think it is. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying that it's a thing. He's intriguing me at 515K.
It's just Patch with some facts.
Just whimsical Patch over here. Just maybe.
So in terms of the mids there, so Zeret, and Raoul Walsh. I mean, how do we feel about those three names, just in general?
I'm going back on my Essendon tangent. I'm concerned about Merritt in the run home. He's got, of the 7 teams, of the, however many games left, he's got 6 tagging roles coming up. So he's got James Jordan, he's got Berry from the Lions, he's got could face Michelini from the Crows, I think it is.
Windhager at some stage.
Possibly Windhager. I saw it on Twitter the other day, but somebody went through and went, Merritt's a great price, but he's going to cop a lot of attention on the run home. And I think it's something to consider when you look at bringing him in. He can break through that tag like he kind of did against Carlton with Chincotta, but I don't know, something to be aware of, buyer beware.
What do you think of the more sort of value options there in Rowell and Walsh? I looked up Matty Rowell's numbers, and his average is about 140-something at the famed People's First Stadium, but away from there,
Comrade
not
Rowell.
so good. He sort of struggles to break the ton, and they've got 4 People's First Stadium games left.
That's not as many as you'd like, is it? They have to leave the motherland and go fight on frontiers abroad. But I probably wouldn't be trading Rowell in. But I mean, he's got a decent, decent build for SuperCoach. I don't know. I'm not sold.
Nice. Walsh. I mean, the Carlton fixture gets a little bit easier on the back half of the season as well, where they've got games against your beloved Tigers, ARL, North. There's like West Coast in the second last week or whatever. There's a couple of interesting ones in there, but I've already got him, so I'm like, happy days. And up forward, I mean, there are other names that you're sort of kicking around outside of like Charlie.
Well, speaking of your beloved Blues,
and speaking of that
run,
sort of fixture,
we've got Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow at 522k and 546k respectively.
400, I think you'll find.
400. Oh, did I say 500? Yeah. 446. I'm bringing one of them in this week, I think. I'm just, for that loop position, that last, they'll sit on the bench some weeks and they'll come on other weeks if I can loop them on. But the value is real good with that run. Yeah,
I don't know that I have enough trades or I'm not quite in a position yet anyway to have them as a spare, a 7th forward. But I think my last forward position, similar to last week, I could wait a week and get Rankin in 2 weeks after Adelaide's bye, or get someone now. And I don't think I can afford to wait with maybe just scratching 18 on the field this week. I need to get someone who's playing. And I do like that Carlton draw. And I just think probably Curnow ahead of Mackay in the sense that he's the kind of guy in one of those games, maybe against a Richmond in a couple of weeks or against a North or a West Coast, he could kick 9 and score 180. And then even if he's scoring 80s and 70s and 90s and things for the rest of the season, overall, you sort of end up with a pretty good average. So given the issues we've had all year with the forwards, I think maybe this is the year to just take a chance on someone like him.
And he was the 3rd most expensive forward to start the season.
Yeah,
3rd, 5th,
that sounds about right.
in that top 5 range.
And he hasn't been terrible. He's just sort of, he's been around the 80-90 mark most weeks.
Yeah.
I might wait on Rankin. I'm just saying. And Taggers is the other sort of big storyline so far. We've sort of seen the rise to prominence. Re-prominence, I guess.
Just before we jump to Taggers, I want to be whimsical again for a second. Jeremy Cameron is $420,000.
Ooh. He's even cheaper.
I'm not saying do it, but...
And Geelong's draw is actually...
Maybe. I've got him in draft, and it's like one of the... It is like just having Jeremy Cameron on your team is just kind of fun. Like, this is just neat because you don't know what's going to happen. He might have 130. He might have 30. There's not a giant amount in between sometimes. It's awesome. So a bit of chaos. But the Taggers vibe, Al. Take us through this because Taggers have been just making a mockery of SuperCoach scores, I think, this year, haven't they? They're just like, it's really a cute little score you've got there.
The last couple of weeks, I think Ross Lyon is the one to blame. And
when is Ross Lyon not the one to blame? Like, just evergreen, it's Ross's fault. And Ross did it.
He talked about catching up with old mate Ryan Crowley for a coffee over in Perth, and that's what sort of seemed to set this whole thing in motion that... Hey, that was pretty fun when we used to just harass Gary Ablett Jr. and players like that. So why don't we give that a try? Marcus Windhager's been really good at it, and then we get all these other teams deciding they're going to have a go at it. And Will Phillips goes to Nick Dacos. He's a laid in and goes and plays a tagging role. Willem Drew's done it a few times before. We mentioned Toby Bedford sort of came from nowhere. So there's just a lot of them around, and it's hard to really put too fine a point on it other than just saying, as you said with Zach Merritt, maybe it's worth looking at upcoming fixtures and who you think might be in the gun. And there's with all these guys, just in the next few weeks, I'm seeing a lot of them are playing Sydney or playing in Adelaide. And
James Jordan, the really, really hairy one after it's the Star Wars thing, which I think we've done the joke before of you were supposed to join the good scorers, not destroy them.
Not destroy them, yeah.
But yeah, how do we find the high ground over taggers?
I don't know.
It's over.
It's over.
It's over, Patch. It's over. Yeah. All right. There you go. Taggers, got to keep an eye on that because they just. I feel like they're basically each week looking at my team and going, all right, we'll take him out, take him out, take him out, take him out. Maybe I should have just been smarter about who I brought in. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll go to the Phantom and talk some Bubble Boys right after this. All right, we've all been waiting for this exact moment from parts unknown. I'll tell you what, he is absolutely flying at the moment. It is Phantom to talk some Bubble Boys. Phantom, what is going on?
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me again. Flying, maybe not quite the right word. I'm going okay. They were all going to hit a roadblock again. Thankfully, the buys are almost over. Hopefully, the rookie situation starts to look a bit nicer on the other side.
Let's start, obviously, with some of these ones that we've actually just had pop off this week, Al. You've got Ari Schoenmaker after, one game? And Carl Warner, question mark, after one game and then a million years and then another game. What are we feeling?
Well, the challenge, I think, Phantom, is that what we want is someone cheap who is going to play this week and then ideally stay around and give us some cover for the rest of the season. If they're on the bubble, that's great. This time of year, we can probably afford to take a chance on someone who's only maybe played one game. But the names playing this week, how do we feel about? We've got a Jack Hutchinson who made his debut for the Eagles a couple of weeks ago. If he gets picked again, only a 102k forward. Carl Warner, as James mentioned, played his second game on the weekend for the Dockers. Are they guys we can potentially pick with any confidence this week?
Interesting. I'd love to be able to say let's pick Hutchinson 102k straight out the mid-season draft. I mean, I could even go there as well. Look, if it makes you the money, as we've said a lot on this show previously, to make the other trade, then maybe you do it. Yes, you need the cover, but it's not the be-all and end-all at this time of the year. And they're probably going to play, and they've picked him to play, and they picked him after he was there at the club for, 7 or 8 days. So that's a good sign. Carl Warner is the interesting one at Freo. We saw Heath Chapman was the late withdrawal with a hamstring issue, and we're yet to see exactly how bad that issue is, but such an injury-prone player, could it keep him out? Maybe. We saw Warner take some kick-ins. Actually looked a bit like Luke Ryan, trying to channel the Luke Ryan. Same boots, same hair. Got back to the goal square to take kick-ins for Freo, which was good to see. 78 SuperCoach points. He has 7 intercept possessions, 2 intercept marks in the display against the Bulldogs. Ideally, he's named again, and we don't want to see Heath Chapman injured, but if they give him a couple more weeks to get that hamstring right, then maybe Carl Warner is the one that's playing this week and hopefully make a bit of cash in that role alongside Luke Ryan. What
did you make of the Super Boot, the Tasmanian Super Boot who debuted for the Saints on the weekend? I know he's now on the bye, but dare I say it, decent junior numbers?
Decent junior numbers. You know me too well there, Patch, but he was a big SuperCoach star as a junior in the Coates League playing for Tasmania. 147 SuperCoach points per game, 2 double tons as a junior last year. And we spoke about his numbers coming into the St Kilda side last week, 143 in the VFL before he got the call up to make his AFL debut. 18 disposals, 4 intercept possessions, 2 intercept marks, and of course went 87% by foot. So doesn't need a lot of the ball to score well, like in his junior career, and he showed that in his first game on the big stage. Has an impact, kicks long, inside 50, and they went to him despite he's still a kid in his first game. So good signs from Ari there. Again, disappointing thing, he won't be there with the bye this week, but if you don't need the extra number, go down to him, make the cash. Some nice bench coverage going forward.
And there's also another name floating around there, Al. Jaymz. How are we feeling about this at 209k? I know Patch is no fan here.
No.
Is it an option? What do we reckon?
Well, it's only an option because he had a new role last time Essendon played 2 weeks ago, sort of known more for his small forward work, but he actually played more as a kind of a half-back, racked up a decent score, 92. He's got a big negative break-even this week. What do you think, Phantom? And then we might get Patch's verdict as a close Essendon watcher.
Yes, I do want to hear that verdict. That could be the decisive factor, but the small forward took 4 intercept marks in that game, in that new role, which was surprising, had a big impact on that final score you mentioned now. But is that where he is, Patch, going forward? Is he in that defence? Is he even in the side?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions, and that concern is enough for me to write him off as not someone I'd be looking at. Maybe if he was 102k, maybe we might be having a slightly different discussion.
Yep.
But you know, I thought he got lost, and I thought he just had come on the interchange gates and had been yelled at to go, he'd gone the wrong way, or I don't know what had happened, but it was very confusing seeing him down back. He didn't, his numbers were quite good. I didn't think he looked incredible. Certainly wasn't, incredibly damaging, or, he was fine, but not, nothing to write home about, I thought. Mason Redmond was missing from that game. Jake Kelly was playing forward for some ungodly reason. I'm not convinced that Menzies will keep that role when, Nick Martin went forward, and that was why Menzies went back. I'm not sure Nick Martin forward will continue long term. And even if it does, there'll be games where Menzies plays as a small forward, games where he plays as the sub. If he's added another string to his bow, that means he's more versatile, which means he can come on as the sub and play at either end. That's bad news for SuperCoach if he's the sub. I don't like it. It scares me, and I'd be steering clear.
There's your verdict.
It certainly is a verdict. We've also got a couple of rookies on the round 15 bye here as well, don't we? We've got Billy Dowling and Nathan Kruger, as well as Strawny, which is always fun. Kieran Strawn. I mean, how are we looking at them for 2 weeks from now, Phantom? Are you keeping an eye on them? Have you already brought in your beloved Billy Dowling? What are we talking about?
I did bring in Billy Dowling last week. He was pretty good. Again, had an impact. Didn't have a lot of the ball. Didn't have as much as he did on debut, but still, made his possession count for the Crows. And I'm sure Matthew Nicks will notice that and hopefully keep him in the side. He's got to keep the kids in. Kieran Strawn, though, obviously not a kid, got an absolute bath from Brodie Grundy on Saturday night, as one-sided as you'll get. So surely a couple of weeks for Riley O'Brien in the twos. You think he probably goes back to Riley O'Brien, Matthew Nicks. So I wouldn't be banking on Kieran Strawn, but I think Billy Dowling hopefully gets an extended run from here.
Nice one. All right, Al, what else we got?
Well, I just wanted to ask about an option that starts to come into view as the sort of the finish line is visible in the distance, and you don't want to be doing it too far out. But if you need to make a move, and it just gets a bit tricky now where I need a rookie in the midfield. So, Carl Warner's not really going to help me. Jack Hutchins is not going to help me. What do you think of bringing in someone who is not most likely going to play, but then just grabbing the cheapest guy who's available, 102,000, with some DPP ideally, who can give you some flexibility on the bench for the run home. If you've got, if I've got a Billy Dowling sitting on my forward bench, I can bring in a mid-forward 102k spud in the midfield who's not going to play, and try and give myself some coverage that way. And that gives me something to downgrade to this week to free up some money.
Yep, I like it. I think this stage of the season as well, some teams out there will start to bring in a cheaper option, maybe a kind of Rosie or something like that, an extra premium on the bench. So you don't need every one of your bench players playing. If you've got some quality there, you can afford to throw some of those positions out and make the cash you need, especially if you've got that DPP swings open up. If you've got one or two or three players who can cover in multiple positions, that's all you'll need, hopefully, in the run home. Yes, it could all backfire, but I think you have to take the punt, follow through with it, use the money when you need to use the money, and quality over quantity on the bench at this point.
Very nice. Don't mind that idea. All right, was there anything else you wanted to hit on with the Phantom there, gentlemen?
No, that was my big question. I think that's cleared my path for a trade this week.
I like it. All right, so That's the Phantom. That has been the Bubble Boys. There's a couple of interesting names there between Showmaker, Warner, and Hutchinson. So I guess the biggest advice at the moment is wait for teams. Basically, right?
I guess the only other question is there anyone coming onto the bye this week who you'd like to keep? Looking at, say, a Joel Frazier, a Harvey Harrison, any one of these guys that have all suddenly hit the bye at the same time, is it worth trying to move heaven and earth to hold on to any of these guys, or are they all on the chopping block?
All on the chopping block, all in the gun. I think whatever you need to do to get that next premium, to execute that trade plan you've been working on, do it. There's no Harley Reid type at his best who we all traded anyway, that you'd probably need to hang on and can have a big score from here. Again, if you've got a couple of fattened cash cow options and you can be a bit picky, then yes, keep a Joel Frazier who has been quite good for the Bulldogs and probably holds his spot. DPP and shown he can score pretty well and could be some good cover if you need it in the run home. But otherwise, chop whoever if you need it.
Yes, sir.
Bruce,
don't need to tell me twice.
I was going to say, I think I just got the chop. All right, there you go. That's been the Phantom. Thanks for jumping back on, Phantom. Always great advice.
James out, patch in. See you guys.
All right, we've just had an awesome chat with the Phantom. Now, let's go have a chat with the one, the only, the SCodfather, the coach of Abs Magic, currently ranked 102. He's had a top 4 finish before. It's an absolute cracking chat. Enjoy. All right, now we welcome on a very special guest. He's one of the very few people in the SuperCoach world ranked higher than our very own Al Paton. That's a shot across the bow, just saying it is the SCodfather, the coach of Abs Magic, the SCodfather. You're looking very ominous at the moment. How are you feeling about your season so far? Are you happy with where you're at, ranked 102 overall?
Firstly, thank you for having me on. And Al Paton, I'm a big fan of, and we chat all the time. And Al Paton's trying to get my my number 4 overall ranking. If you're trying to get higher, I understand that, but my rank overall 102. I'm very happy, but at the same time, I'm very upset. So my spuds they make me very upset. Okay, I can't come a day with my spuds, but. Last week we were ranked 80. We were happy with that. But this week I got Powell in my team and he let me down. He made me very upset. So we're travelling okay. We're not too bad.
Nice one. Do you have a spud in mind? Has there been a spud this year that's really just spudded up for you that you're really disappointed in?
I had 2 spuds last week that we sacked. We had to remove them from the team. And Nick Martin was one of them.
Oof.
Now, Nick Martin, we started with Nick Martin. He's a con artist, okay? He conned me in. And so I started with Nick Martin, and then I traded him out after round 1. We got rid of him. Then we brought him back because we missed him, okay? Because our team is full of spuds, we needed the spud back, so we brought him back in. And then we had to sack him last week. So he's gone, okay? He's finished. And we sent him away to... far away, so he's not going to come back anymore. We also had another spud that we had to sack. Actually, we have a lot of spuds, but we couldn't sack Green. We stuck with Green. This week we've sacked Powell. He's gone. There's no longer Tim Powell in our team.
So, Abs, for people who aren't familiar with your work, of course, in 2022, finished 4th overall, as you said, after being the overall leader for a fair portion of the run home and famously running out of trades with, I think, 7, 8, 10 weeks to go or something like that. But you do take a bit of a unique approach to SuperCoach, which obviously works for you. But how did you, if you can sum it up briefly, how did you attack this season? Obviously, we had a lot of different things happening with opening round and all these buys and everything. But how did you attack it, and would you say that's worked for you? Would you do it the same or different next year?
This year... I got very excited, okay, because I saw 40 trades, okay. I fell off my chair when I saw the 40 trades. So I thought maybe this year that they made SuperCoach just for me, okay. So it was just built for myself. Unfortunately, I've used a lot of those trades, so they're all gone. So I saw the buy rounds early on, all right, and I did a little exercise. I actually did this on my channel, and I did a team with mid prices. And I thought, because that's how I'd normally attack the season, with mid prices. But with the buy rounds, mid prices don't work because you need players that can score massive, all right? So you need players that can score 120, 130, high ceiling players. So I made it after round one. I changed the whole team around, and I brought in Luke Ryan. I virtually sacked Nick Martin for Luke Ryan after round one because I saw his ceiling. Then I brought in another player that's not playing that well now, which is Sarong. So I brought in Sarong in round one also. So I virtually wanted players with high ceilings to play the early buy rounds. So I went for guns on rookies.
And your rookies were, I think from memory, you sort of steered away from some of the more expensive types that a lot of us were picking.
Yeah, well, because we're on a tight budget, okay, and we have our manager at the club, our recruiting manager. His name is Titas, okay. So we sort of had to get the cheapo stuff. So we went to we didn't look in Australia. We went to China, okay, and we got a shipment in from China, a container full of spuds, and we got all the cheapos. So we missed out on the players like Reed. We couldn't afford the good stuff, so we got all the cheapos. But unfortunately, actually, those cheapos were not too bad. They came out all right, but some are spuds, so it was a mixed bag.
You've come out the last couple of years and named your weapon. And at the start of the year, you were big on Matt Rowell, and I wanted to follow you. Was scared by the bye. Didn't get him until much later. How have you felt about Rowell's season, and do you have a weapon for the run home? For those of us that are looking for the last spot in our team, have you got anyone you're just eyeing off as a weapon ready to explode?
Yeah, with Rowell, I was so happy that no one owned him. Only 3% started with him, and it made me very happy. Okay, and but what happened now is he's got a lot of owners, so there's a lot of weight on his shoulders now. The poor young man, and he can't carry everybody. Okay, he can only carry Abs Magic, so the weapon has become a spud now. So he's no longer a weapon. We need a new one, and I've looked around. I've got 2 or 3 in mind that I really like. We're going to have a weapon, and I'm going to trade out Green this week. So I'm going to do something different. I've decided that we're not going to have a 23rd primo, and we're going to go extra with weapons on field. So we're going to bring in. I like Ed Richards a lot. All right. However, Ed Richards with Libba in the team, maybe not the best. Now I'm liking Libba a lot. All right, but Libba, he's okay, but I'm sort of now going towards Ridley from Essendon, and he's going to be my weapon. So Ridley's going to carry our team, hopefully to the top 10. Okay, that's his job.
Nice one. I love the idea of the spud farming, because I'm the expert spud farmer I think over here on this panel. Just had a horrible year, but my spud crop has grown just exponentially. It's been absolutely fantastic. They've stunk up the joint. Basically, they've been laying there to rot in the sun. But really, do you have like how many trades do you have left first? And then secondly, how do you see yourself getting up from 102 overall rank back into that top 10? Can you see a way?
Well, with the current spuds that I've got, I don't see a way, because I saw Al Paton's team, and my spuds. We had a meeting this morning after seeing Al Paton's team, and we're very scared. Okay, so we think Al Paton's going to overtake us. So we've had a crisis meeting right now, and we're going to bring in Ridley. We think the thing is now we need pods. Okay, we need players that no one else has, because either we're going to bust or we're going to fly. Okay, it's going to be one of the two. And Houston killed us this week. Okay, we're very upset when we saw Houston. I could have come a deal. Look, I was very upset. But anyway, Houston scoring 170, 50% owned him. Okay, and that hurt. So we need players that only 1% or 2% have that can score what Houston did. That will get us back. So we'll see how our pods go. We're going to bring in a few pods now.
So how many trades do you have, Abs?
It's a sensitive topic right now, the trades topic. Okay, so we have 7 left, okay, but I'm gonna use. Actually, we've got 10 left before this week, so I'm gonna use 3 this week. I'm gonna use 3 next week. So we're gonna have 4 on the run home. Actually, no, I've a little bit. Okay, I might have.
It is. Look, it's sensitive information. We understand that there are. You can't be.
I don't even look at my trades. I don't look at my trades now. Actually, I've only got 7 this week, so I said 10, but it's only 7. So it's going to be 4 left after this week. We don't have an F5 or an F6. Okay, we've only got spuds there, so we can't afford the Rankins. We've decided that we're not going to go for Rankin because he's a good player. Good players don't come to Abs Magic, so we're gonna bring in some more 2 more spuds in our forward line, and we're going to have 2 trades on the run home. With a full team, and that full team is going to be no 23rd. So we're going
what's the bench cover like then? Have you got Billy Dowling? Do you have like a Joel Frazier? Who have you got on the pine in case somebody does?
Yeah, we had Joel Frazier, but he's going to go, so we need his cash. So we're gonna have Billy Dowling. We're going to try to bring in one of those cheapo, because as you know, we don't have the expensive stuff at Abs Magic. So we're going to bring in a cheapo defender that hopefully is going to get a run home. So maybe Sean Maker will be our D7. We've got ruck cover. We've got an R3 that's playing Strawn, who's Snail. Okay, but he's doing okay. So hopefully Strawn gets to play the whole year, and we're going to get a lot of what you called dead rookies, like 1 or 2K rookies with DPP. So we can switch everything around. And our main player to save us is going to be Dowling. Okay, so we're relying on Dowling to carry us home this year. So we'll see how it goes.
Nice one. Was there anything else you wanted to hit on there, Al?
I think Abs has covered off most of the issues there. I saw LDU as another nice little pod that we may have both picked up this week, which worked out pretty well. But what do you see in Ridley that you think he can deliver some of those spike scores that might get you over the top of some of the other popular defenders out there?
Well, Ridley is very similar to Dale, and I really love Dale's game, where Dale takes all the kick-ins and does a lot of these 1, 2, 3, 10-pointers. And Ridley's the same type of character where he gets his points, 10 points in one hit, just from one kick-in. So that's why I like Ridley a lot. And also I like the fact that he actually intercept marks. So he's the playmaker from defence. I could actually see him finishing better than Luke Ryan on the run home because of his ability to mark the ball. The only problem with Ridley is the calves. Okay, so we're gonna take a risk, and hopefully he doesn't get injured. But it's top 10 or bust, so you just got to go for it now. So the leader, or actually the team that's coming third, I've been watching him. Okay, we've got the spies out at the camp, and he's got 500,000 more than we have. Okay, he's a rich club. Okay, we're the poor club at Abs Magic, so we've got to beat teams like this now, and it's not easy, and especially with Paton breathing down my back, okay, and I got Tim Mitchell flying behind me as well, and so we got to get different players now, okay. I can't share information with Tim Mitchell anymore because he listens to everything I say, and he gets the same players, so we've got to try to avoid Tim Mitchell. He's starting to scare me.
Yeah, I've tried putting a few restraining orders on him and he just keeps violating them. It's just that he doesn't care about the rule of law, doesn't care about super coaches like you and I. He's just a rebel without a cause, that Tim Mitchell.
He even said the other day to me, he messaged me, he said he was going to bring in McGovern, and he gave me a heart attack, okay? So I fell off my chair when he said McGovern was going to come in, but luckily he didn't do it, so I was okay.
Yeah, don't look at his trades this week. I think he's high on the radar.
Nice one. All right, there you go. That's Abs Magic, the SCodfather. You can go check out his amazing work on his channel as well. He does a great job. Thank you so much for jumping on and, just basically dumping in Al's face for a little bit, being ranked 102 overall. I love this. This is fantastic.
Good luck for the run home, Abs. We're all rooting, well, except for Al. But
yeah, Patch and I are on your boat. There we go.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right. How good was that chat with the SCodfather, Al? That was awesome. He's taking you. Talk about, like, we mentioned this earlier with the Phantom about, Strawny getting a bath by Grundy. I feel like he's about to do the same to you. This is a bit worrisome.
Well, there's some very kind words there, but, he's an absolute legend of the SuperCoach community, Abs. So, we all want to see him do well.
That's awesome. Yep. All right. Speaking of other legends, let's do Stats with Al.
So, just found a nice little juicy stat, and again, all of these will be on codesports.com.au and all the mastheads in a very short time with some more detail. You can scroll through all the clubs and see all the CBA numbers. Centre bounces, obviously a huge stat that is relevant for SuperCoach, and the name that jumped straight off the page when I looked at them this week is Jack Steele. We know he got some attention from Jared Berry, the tagger, and we talked about that in terms of the tag. And one way potentially to try and get him away from that was he actually moved out of the centre square, spent a lot of the game in the second half, especially in the forward line, had a season low 39% centre bounces. Normally he's like an 80, 90% operator. So that's a very low number. Now, it may have just been the one-off because of the tag, but the worry is that Liam Henry went into the centre bounces in the last quarter. He attended pretty much all of them, 23% rise in CBAs for him, not normally a guy that you see at the centre bounce, but it actually kind of worked. Like, St Kilda looked quite good in the last quarter, so it makes me a little bit nervous that Ross might think this is a tactic he could try again going forward, which is probably not what we want for Jack Steele's SuperCoach numbers.
Jack Steele on the bye. Would you trade him out this week?
Maybe.
That's not a no, folks. That's not a no. Get trading.
That was the longest pause before a maybe ever as well. It's like, maybe.
You'd have to have enough trades and everything, but you could consider it. I mean, it's hard going off just that one little bit of sample size, but yeah, it was. They are some interesting numbers.
Nice one. All right, let's debut another new segment. It's the no-go zone. That's right. My own little sort of one-man sort of effects board over here. The no-go zone. Who are we not touching for this run home in the SuperCoach season, gentlemen? I will kick this off simply by saying Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay. They are very, very interesting pods heading into the last stretch. I, however, as a Carlton fan, don't want to touch either of those two illustrious, fantastic gentlemen who should kick the Blues towards a flag.
Is that because you're superstitious or because you don't think they'll be good at SuperCoach?
Why not both? Let's go. It's a bit of a vibe because I feel like every time Charlie sort of pops off, Harry might not be having a good game, but then you can sort of flip both and they sort of essentially it's the roller coaster. One might have a good week, the other one might just not be as good.
Could you pick both?
Could I play both at the same time? Maybe not.
Well, just pick each week, so one on the bench and one on the field.
That's best 18-ish. It's just best
some
best
kind of
one.
loophole there, surely.
Yeah, it's best one, where you have two of them and you get the one best score.
Basically, I'm just looking at the structure for my team. I'm like, Isaac Rankine in 2 weeks' time is probably the better option, and that's basically where I'm at. So I just don't want to touch the sort of key position guys. We talked about Jesse Hogan earlier in the season, and that sort of, he's fallen off a cliff as well. Like, just tough sledding, I think, to have either of those. But Al, what's your no-go?
Yeah, that's fair enough. The one I'm looking at this week, or not looking at, is Colby McKercher. I know there's a temptation there because we know how well he can score when he plays. The word is that he will be back potentially this week for the Kangaroos. The price is great, $379K. He's still got a -5 break even, but I've already used 3 trades on him. I'm not going to use another one. He's the number 2 draft pick. North surely are going to be very careful with how they manage him, and that foot injury, which doesn't just go away with a 2 or 3 week rest. So every chance he's managed for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, who knows how many more for the rest of the season. So he's not someone I'll be taking a risk on.
Nice one, Patch.
My no-go zone is your beloved Connor Rozee. He's looking very, very cheap. Price has fallen off a cliff after a few injury-affected games. He's back in POG form. I don't want a bar of him. Watched him on the weekend. He just didn't look in it. Maybe next week I'll change my tune. Maybe he comes out, shows that he just had a bit of rust he needed to just burn off. This week, he's still got a very big break even, still got more cash to lose. Not this week. Just didn't look anywhere near it.
It's also been the sort of query I've had about Rankin, right? Like, I don't like soft tissue injuries for the guys that you're sort of relying on. So Rankin's coming back from his, but he looked pretty good against the Swans. He gets another week off now, so that's why I'm at least vaguely confident in his sort of ability. Whereas Rozee, it's been so tumultuous, I guess, the last month for him that I'm like hands off until like we have like plenty. Like,
And the poor
how far does he have to drop before you bring him in, right? That's the question I have.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would need to be linked to form as well. I'd want to see something as well as the price going just that little bit lower. So if I saw something this week and he scored 110, maybe I'd then think about it next week. But at this stage, certainly I think there's more cash to lose. And the other factor is that, Port's midfielders learned to live without him for the last month. And, they'll take time to worm him back in. Adelaide's forward line hasn't worked for the last month without Rankin, and now he's back and he's slotted straight back into that hole, whereas the Conor Rosie-shaped peg isn't quite fitting into the Port midfield quite as nicely at the moment. Maybe it'll take time. I don't know. Anyway.
That was a beautiful set of metaphors. I enjoyed that. Quick fire round. Let's do it. Can you trade them on their bye? We've already answered this one. Jack Steele. Apparently Al says maybe.
That pause was 20 seconds too short.
How do you feel about it, Patch?
I mean, look, if you need to trade someone to get to 18, sure, yeah.
It does worry me. Everything Ross worries me.
I don't think it's, yes, I think you can do it.
Jordan Dawson, Al.
I don't have Dawson, but if I did, I think he would definitely enjoy the week off. He's had a bit of a sore foot, and he's the obvious one that taggers go to. I wonder if Rankin could maybe get some attention when they come up against all these guys that we've been talking about. But yeah, another one who has been a bit underwhelming, but I think when the good scores come, you'd be pretty annoyed if you traded him out.
Yeah, I'm holding Dawson.
A 55 and a 79 in the last 3 weeks. Rough. What about Dylan Moore? This is a tough question because he had a pretty rough week this week, but still rose in price, I think, because of his break-even. So, strange one. Dylan Moore, what do you think, Al?
Well, I think this is really one for Patch because I think you are a Dylan Moore
I am a
owner.
Dylan Moore owner.
So
Dylan Moore
his past
enthusiast, some might say.
6 weeks, he's had, I think, one score over 100, but it was about 180.
What a score it was, Al.
I mean, given the state of the forward line, where does he sit?
Who are you trading him to is my question. Like, if you found someone that's better than Dylan Moore that's playing this week, sure, please tell me who it is. I think, he'll still have a lot of 70s and 80s. Hopefully that's counteracted by the big scores. Hopefully he drops a few more of them as Hawthorn improves and continues going well. I'm holding, but if you've found a better option in at the bottom of a bag somewhere, go for it, man. I don't know.
All right. Is Tom Green a top 8 midfielder at the end of the season? Oh, God, this breaks my heart.
Nope.
It doesn't feel like he's going to be, is it? Patch, no?
No, but I can't trade him because I don't have enough trades. So
stuck with him.
I still think he's got all the building blocks to be a very good midfielder. It's just not clicking.
Al?
He's currently just checking this, the 30th ranked midfielder in SuperCoach after starting the season with 3 scores of about 150. So
remember when people were paying $650,000 to trade him in?
I started with him, but
that hurts.
what is his price now? He's $450, and he's still coming down. So
I think he bounces back. But
surely at some stage
he had plenty of the pill this week, and it's just more about the efficiency. And I think now that Kelly's back. Now that Buckley's back, Caniglio down the road as well, essentially will come back in. It's still just going to be a rough couple of weeks, I reckon. And the thing is, he's that good at times where you're like, the fingers are just crossed. It's like, I can't do much about it.
And it's just stuff isn't going right as well. There was a kick inside 50 on Sunday where the ball came in, it landed in his lap. He took the mark.
25 metres out,
directly in front, and the free kick was given to the guy standing next to him. His teammate, Toby Green, who then went back and kicked a point because he kicked 5 of them. And it's just like, well, that should be a Tom Green shot on goal. That should be a Tom Green goal, but it's not.
All right.
It's just, anyway, quick fire round, you said.
Yep. How many trades we got left? Patch.
No comment.
All right, cool.
4.
4? Jeez.
Oh, wow.
After using 3 this week, it's 4.
All right, Al.
That's low. I've got 9 coming into the round, but I'll probably be 7 after this week, I think.
I've got 8, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Would either of you gentlemen be interested in...
I've said I'll do a lot of things for $20. Boost or no boost, I've actually still got my boost left, and because I didn't end up using it last week, I might use it just to get the, depending on the Butters result. Like if he actually gets rubbed out, I might need to use the boost, use the 4, knock myself down to 4 remaining trades for the rest of the season, just to sort of give myself one last little hope, and that's all it's going to be. So may as well. But everyone else is out of boost, I assume.
Yes, absolutely. And the boost,
Long way.
you can't take the boost with you. Like if you
roll it over to next year. Come on, Al.
Your trades end up at 1 or 2 trades. You can't then activate a boost. That's not going to help you. So,
all right, captain's call. Who are we looking at this week? It is a bit of a rough week. I'm probably just going to roll the dice on Sam Walsh on Friday night against the Geelong Cats. He had 104 against them a month plus ago when they were at the G, but last year ripped off 157, and I think that's kind of the interesting one, depending on how Geelong are looking. Carlton had been playing very well. Sam Walsh might just sort of give you that random 150 out of nowhere, and you're like, fingers crossed, let's go. And then probably the captain thing was a tough one this week. I might just go into Sarong on Sunday and sort of just hope for the best with Freo at home, I believe.
yes.
Against the Suns, who not exactly known for the tagging, a lot of back and forth, a lot of big scores in that one. So Flanders has also got a really big projection in that game. I think he's at 131.
Yeah, he's one
whereas Sarong's only
keep in mind.
110 projected, but I think Sarong is due a bit of a bounce back. So especially at home, I don't mind that. We know that he goes bang at Optus, so we'll see what happens. Patch, your vibes?
Yeah, I also don't like this week all that much. I know we spoke about Zach Merritt facing a lot of tagging on the run home. Eagles, as far as I'm aware, don't really tag, so he could be one to get off the chain on Sunday. I don't have him, so I won't be able to VC him. Walsh is on the list. Houston will probably get more attention this week, but maybe Zorko has another, good effort seagulling. Those two are being considered. Brodie Grundy is playing in Sydney. It's not at the SCG, but he's in Sydney. But Luke Ryan is probably the one I'll end up with the captain on for that late Sunday game.
Nice one.
Yeah, I think he's probably a safe backup. No Dacos, no Bont this week, obviously. Make things a little bit challenging. Maybe you've got Max Gawn against Tristan Cherry, who's had a really good year, or Grundy, as you said, against the Giants. Probably safe-ish options. I think if you got a 115 or 120 from your VC, you'd probably bank it this week.
I think this
week not an
you
obvious early score that could go up. I don't mind Walsh, but I think, speaking of taggers, I think Mark O'Connor played in that game earlier in the year and followed him around, so maybe see what the teams look like on Friday night. But yeah, it's a bit of a tricky week, I think.
It is. Right, it's a name of games, though. Very quickly, some name games. Did Dusty turn up this week?
I assume he did. I mean, I sort of tuned out after that goal about 5 minutes into the game.
He did. He continued to pace, correct. Yeah,
yeah, it was a linear, just like he had 26 goals at half time and it just kept going.
That's pretty much my memory.
He ended up on 56, so yeah. I think I won that one. This week, Sexton with Will Powell back. Interesting. Over under 80. What are we saying there, Al?
Yeah, I thought I'd just put this on the agenda for a little bit of discussion because Will Powell's been out for 5 weeks. In that time, Sexton has been a fantastic pickup, averaging roughly 95 points, but they basically play the same role. And earlier in the year when Powell was there, Sexton wasn't scoring very well. Do we think? I mean, he's not going to get dropped, surely. Forward. Yeah, but if he does keep playing, how do we think he goes?
Probably not great. Probably not great. I'm not...
Well, he's had 5 straight games over the top of 80. So he's gone 82, 118, 86, 187. I still have a little bit of faith in Sexton, so I will go the over.
Yeah, all right. I'll take the unders. Ideally, I think if I can make my trades work, I'll keep him as that extra bench player who could potentially swing to the back line as well with that DPP. But
between him and Fisher, it's a really handy sort of, you've got both 100%. Of them. It makes it a lot easier to sort of swing people
around. Will Dawson on the bench is another one there. So that could work out quite well if he stays in the team and scores okay. If he starts scoring 30s again,
pack
not
up,
so
boys.
great. Yeah.
Over under for the highest score of this round, Patch. What do you think? Over under 2,250.
We've seen most people scoring about 2,000. The top score for this week was in the 2,300s, which was just insane. It always clicks for one person, and I reckon there's someone out there that has built a team for this week because they want that cash, and I reckon it'll be over 2,250, despite no Bont, despite no Dacos, despite no rookies, despite just nothing going right for this week.
Nice.
Life finds a way, James.
I'll give you the lock of this week is that my score will be under 2,250.
Yours could be the team.
It could
to
be
honest,
the team.
it might actually be my
where
week.
The planets align. I think the person who won the weekly prize this week was ranked about 80,000th overall, so...
And
we're of kin. This is great. We're right there.
You're due. If a person has ever been due,
I've never been more due. Al, what do you reckon over under the 2,250?
Yeah, someone always seems to
pop off, right?
Yeah, it's crazy how it happens, but I think it is going to be a tricky week. Managed to get over 2,000 in the bye round so far, but maybe 1,900 or something this week is probably going to be a decent score.
If I scrape past 1,900, I will be ecstatic.
Nice. Yeah. All right, really quickly, Monday moves. Before we go, what is your Monday trade? As I mentioned, I don't know if I'm going to make one. I've got the 8 remaining trades. If I've got 19, I might go the exact opposite way and use 4 with my boost. Just basically
4 or 0.
Basically. Yeah. The problem is I would rather wait and just bring in rank in next week and then sort of go from there. But with the opportunity to use 4 trades, maybe I can get one more double upgrade in there somehow. So, but I don't think I'll end up with the cash to do 4. So the ideas would literally be to probably move on from Fraser and from Sullivan. The other thing is also I still have Loston in the back line, so it might be, if he's part of the 4-person trade, he might be in there. So, yeah, it's very up in the air at the moment. My initial vibe is to not trade.
Yeah, I mean, I got those sort of itchy feet last week and I didn't want to wait, and now I look back at it and think, well, it probably gained me 10 or 15 points, and if I had have waited, I might have got the player that I actually preferred. But it just depends, because Clark obviously didn't have a great round. If he'd have scored 120, it would have been the best move. So I think same Fraser and Sullivan for me. I just need someone who I can downgrade. I need to really downgrade Sullivan in the midfield, so then I can turn Fraser into a premium forward, probably Charlie Curnow. So if there's a rookie midfielder out there, someone let me know. Otherwise, it might be one of these dead rookies who maybe has some DPP attached that I can sit there and move around and hopefully not get burnt by the fact that they aren't playing.
Yep. I am trading in a dead rookie at this stage. I've committed to it because it gives me just enough cash to trade up to Elliot Yeo in the back line and up to Charlie Curnow in the forward line, Charlie Curnow on the bench, as I've spoken about a little bit, so I can then, come end of year, try and loop Curnow with Fisher, with a few other guys, potentially in the midfield with Green, depending on swings and roundabouts and loops. So that's the plan, which gives me 18 this week. And if Zach Butters is suspended, I will have to just...
do it all again. All right.
I will cry so loudly.
Nice one.
Anyway, so that's my plan. Please let it come to fruition.
That noise you just heard, the full body sobs of one patch.
I just realised that trade that I was discussing would leave me about 130 grand in the bank, and might have a trade or two more than you guys. So could I use the third one to turn a Steele into Zach Merritt or something?
Watch out.
Ooh, la-di-da.
The wheels are turning.
Hey,
I
big
love that.
spender.
All right. That's it for the round 15 preview of AFL SuperCoach, though, of course. Remember to subscribe to SuperCoach Plus to take your game to the next level. Follow all things Code Sports for the latest AFL SuperCoach news and analysis. If you haven't already, please leave a rating and review on Apple, Spotify. Subscribe to Code Sports on YouTube, all the good stuff there to get notified whenever a new episode drops. It's very simple. It's very easy. It's very good. You can also get all the news and fun gear, all your game previews, etc. with the AFL Today show. And thanks to Patch.
Thanks to everyone else.
Nice one.
For carrying me along.
Thanks to Al.
Thank you, James, and especially thanks to our guest, Abs.
That's right. The SCodfather and Phantom both jumping on.
And the Phantom.
That was very fun.
Yeah, I remember him. Oh, yeah.
And producer Homie for stepping in today as well. Very handy. All right. Have a great week and happy super coaching.